He broke my arm, she sobbed into the phone at 2 a.m. On the other end, her brother, a Hells Angels member known as the Beast, went completely silent. Everyone expected him to destroy the man who hurt his sister, but what Jack Morrison did next shocked everyone who knew him and changed both their lives forever. When someone chose patience over anger, your engagement helps us bring more powerful stories to your screen. The phone rang at 2:17 a.m. Jack Morrison was already awake. He rarely slept more than 4 hours anymore. Too many memories, too many ghosts. He was sitting on his porch in the darkness, nursing a beer and watching the stars over the Arizona desert. When he saw Larissa's name on the screen, his heart stopped. His little sister never called this late, not unless something was wrong. "Larissa, what's—" "Jack." Her voice was broken, shattered. The voice of someone whose world had just collapsed. "Jack, I need help. Tyler, he broke my arm, Jack. He broke my arm." The beer bottle slipped from Jack's hand and shattered on the wooden deck. He didn't notice. "Where are you?" "St. Mary's Hospital. Emergency room. Jack, I'm scared. I'm so scared." "I'm coming. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. I'm coming." He was on his motorcycle in 30 seconds. The engine roared to life, and Jack Morrison, known to the Hells Angels as the Beast, tore into the night with murder in his heart. Jack was 42 years old. He had been with the club for 15 years, earned his nickname through a dozen fights that left other men broken. His knuckles were permanently scarred. His police record was 3 pages long. He had done things he wasn't proud of, things that kept him awake at night. But none of that mattered now. Larissa was 12 years younger than him. Their father had left when she was 3, and their mother had worked double shifts just to keep food on the table. Jack had raised Larissa as much as their mother had. He had walked her to school, scared off bullies, taught her to ride a bike. He had promised to always protect her, and he had failed. Tyler Reed, the boyfriend. Jack had never liked him. Too smooth, too charming, too quick with excuses. But Larissa was 29 years old, a grown woman who made her own choices. Jack had kept his distance, kept his mouth shut, even when his instincts screamed that something was wrong. Now his instincts had been proven right, and someone was going to pay. He was 10 minutes from the hospital when another motorcycle pulled alongside him. Carter Williams, his best friend, his brother in every way that mattered, matched his speed and gestured for him to pull over. Jack ignored him. Carter cut in front of him, forcing him to slow down. Both bikes stopped on the shoulder of the empty highway. "Get out of my way," Jack growled. "Not until you tell me what's happening." Carter had been woken by Jack's engine roaring past his house. He knew that sound. He knew what it meant. Tyler broke Larissa's arm. "She's in the hospital." Carter's face hardened. He loved Larissa too. She was like a sister to the whole club. "Then let's go." "But Jack, don't. Listen to me." Carter grabbed Jack's arm. "I know what you're thinking. I know what you want to do, and I get it. Believe me, I get it. But if you go after Tyler tonight, you're going to kill him, and then you're going to prison for the rest of your life. I don't care. Larissa cares. She needs her brother, not a visiting room at the state penitentiary." Carter's grip tightened. "Give me 24 hours. Just 24 hours. Let's go to the hospital, make sure she's okay, and figure out the right way to handle this." Jack's whole body was shaking with rage. Every fiber of his being screamed to find Tyler Reed and make him suffer. But Carter's words cut through the red haze. Larissa needed him, not in prison, here. 24 hours, Jack said through gritted teeth. Not a minute more. They rode to the hospital together. The emergency room was quiet at this hour. A tired nurse led them to a curtained area where Larissa sat on a bed, her left arm in a temporary cast, her face streaked with tears and bruises. When she saw Jack, she burst into fresh sobs. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms, careful not to touch her injured side. She felt so small against him, so fragile. The little girl he had carried on his shoulders was now a broken woman, and he hadn't been there to stop it. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "You have nothing to be sorry for. This isn't your fault. I should have listened. You never liked him. You tried to warn me. Larissa, look at me. Jack pulled back, tilting her chin up. This is not your fault. The only person responsible is Tyler. Do you understand? She nodded weakly. Carter stepped forward. What happened, honey? Can you tell us? The story came out in fragments. They had been arguing about money. Tyler had been drinking. He grabbed her arm, twisted it, and when she tried to pull away, I heard it snap, Larissa whispered. I heard my own bone break. Jack's hands curled into fists. Carter put a steadying hand on his shoulder. Did you call the police? Carter asked. Larissa shook her head. I can't. If I do, he said he'd... She started crying again. You don't understand. Tyler knows people, important people. He said no one would believe me. He said he'd destroy my life. That's what abusers say, Carter said gently. They make you feel powerless. But you're not powerless, Larissa. You have us. You have family. I just want to go home. I want to sleep. Please, can we just go home? Jack looked at Carter, who gave a small nod. Okay, we'll take you home. But Larissa, this conversation isn't over. We need to talk about what happens next. As they helped her to the car, Jack's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know who you are, Beast. Come after me, and I'll make sure your sister regrets it. Tyler. Jack stared at the message, his blood boiling. Then he showed it to Carter. He's threatening her, Jack said quietly. He broke her arm, and now he's threatening her. Carter read the message twice. His jaw tightened. 24 hours, brother. We do this the right way. But after that, he looked at Jack with cold eyes. After that, we handle it together. The next morning, Jack sat in his kitchen, staring at the wall. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Larissa's bruised face, heard the words, I heard my own bone break. His phone was on the table. Tyler's threatening message still glowed on the screen. Every few minutes, Jack picked it up, read it again, and felt the rage rebuild. Carter arrived at 8 a.m. with coffee and breakfast burritos. He took one look at Jack and sighed. You haven't slept. Can't. You need to eat. Can't do that either. Carter sat down across from him. Listen, brother, I know you want to handle this the old way. I do too. But I've been thinking all night, and I need you to hear me out. Jack said nothing. Tyler Reed isn't some random punk. I did some digging. His father's a city councilman. His uncle is a judge. He's got connections that could make our lives very difficult. Carter leaned forward. If we go after him with fists and fury, he'll spin it. Make us look like the bad guys. Maybe even get Larissa in trouble for associating with us. So what? We just let him walk? No. We do this smart. Carter pulled out his phone and showed Jack a website. There's a lawyer here in Phoenix who specializes in domestic violence cases, Rebecca Torres. She's got a 90% conviction rate and a reputation for taking down powerful abusers. Larissa won't go to the police. She's terrified. That's why we need to talk to her, really talk, help her understand that the fear Tyler put in her head, that's part of the abuse. It's designed to keep her trapped. Jack rubbed his face with both hands. I don't know how to do that, Carter. I know how to fight, how to intimidate, how to make men fear me. I don't know how to help someone heal. Carter was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised Jack. Maybe it's time you learned. What's that supposed to mean? It means maybe this isn't just about Larissa. Maybe it's about you, too. Carter held up his hands before Jack could protest. I've known you 15 years, brother. You've always been angry, always running from something. You channel it into the club, into fights, into being the beast. But what happens when the fighting stops? What happens when you're alone with yourself? Jack had no answer. There's a therapist I've been seeing, Carter continued. Dr. Phillips. He's helped me work through a lot of stuff from my past. Maybe he could help you, too. You're seeing a therapist? For 2 years now. Best decision I ever made. Carter shrugged. Look, I'm not saying you have to do anything. I'm just saying. Maybe there's another way to be strong. A way that doesn't end with you in prison or dead. Before Jack could respond, his phone rang. Larissa. Jack? Can you come over? I need to talk to you. Both of you. They drove to her apartment in Carter's truck. When they arrived, Larissa was sitting on her couch, her broken arm in a proper cast now, her face still swollen, but her eyes clearer than the night before. "I've been thinking all night," she said, "about what happened, about what I want to do." "And?" Jack asked, sitting beside her. "Tyler called me this morning. He was crying, apologizing. He said he didn't mean to hurt me. He said he'd go to therapy, that he'd change." She paused. "Part of me wants to believe him." Jack felt his rage building again, but Carter's hand on his shoulder kept him grounded. "Larissa," Carter said gently, "how many times has he apologized before?" She was quiet, too quiet. "This wasn't the first time, was it?" Jack asked, his voice strained. "He's never broken anything before, just pushed me sometimes, grabbed me too hard. But he always apologized. He always promised to change." Jack stood up abruptly, walked to the window, and pressed his forehead against the glass. He was shaking with the effort of controlling himself. "Larissa," he said without turning around, "I love you more than anything in this world. You know that. But I need you to hear something, and I need you to really listen." He turned to face her. "Men like Tyler don't change. They apologize, they cry, they make promises, and then they do it again, and again, and again, until one day they don't just break your arm, they break your neck." Larissa started crying. "I know you want to believe him. I know it's easier to believe him, but believing him could kill you." Jack's voice cracked. "I can't lose you, Larissa. I won't survive it." The room was silent, except for Larissa's sobs. Finally, she looked up. "What do I do? I'm so scared. I don't know how to do this alone." Carter knelt in front of her. "You're not alone. You have Jack. You have me. You have the whole club if you need them. But more importantly, you have yourself. You're stronger than you know, Larissa. You just have to find that strength. How? One step at a time. First we get you somewhere safe. Then we talk to a lawyer. Then we figure out the rest together." Carter took her hand. "Can you trust us?" Larissa looked at her brother, then at Carter. Two men who had spent their lives in violence, now offering her something different, something softer. "Okay," she whispered. "I trust you." The next 2 weeks were the hardest of Jack's life, not because of Tyler, though the urge to find him and end him never fully went away, but because Jack was fighting a battle he had never fought before. A battle against himself. Carter had made good on his suggestion. Dr. Phillips, a calm, patient man in his 60s, had agreed to see Jack on an emergency basis. The first session had been excruciating. "Tell me about your anger," Dr. Phillips had said. "What about it? When did it start? Where does it come from?" Jack had wanted to walk out, had actually stood up, moved toward the door, but something kept him there, the memory of Larissa's face, the knowledge that if he didn't change, he would eventually destroy himself, and maybe her, in the process. So he sat back down, and he talked about his father, who had beaten their mother before abandoning them, about the rage that had lived in his chest since childhood, about the fights, the violence, the way he had learned to survive by becoming something terrifying. "You became the beast because it was safer than being vulnerable," Dr. Phillips observed. "But that armor comes with a cost. It keeps you protected, but it also keeps you isolated. I don't know how to be anything else. That's what we're here to figure out." Meanwhile, Larissa was fighting her own battle. She had moved into Jack's spare bedroom, unable to return to the apartment she had shared with Tyler. The lawyer Carter had recommended, Rebecca Torres, had taken her case and was building a domestic violence complaint. But Larissa's healing wasn't just legal, it was emotional. She started seeing a therapist of her own, joined a yoga class at the community center, began taking art lessons at a studio downtown. Slowly, piece by piece, she was rebuilding herself. Carter was there through all of it. He drove her to appointments when Jack was at therapy, brought her coffee and terrible jokes, sat with her in silence when she needed to cry. Jack noticed the way they looked at each other, the way Larissa smiled when Carter walked in. Something was growing between them, something gentle and good. For the first time in his life, Jack felt hope. Not because the rage was gone, it wasn't. It probably never would be, but because he was learning to live with it, to control it, instead of letting it control him. Then Tyler showed up. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Larissa was at her art class. Jack was on the porch, reading a book Dr. Phillips had recommended, when a familiar BMW pulled into his driveway. Tyler Reed stepped out. Expensive suit, perfect hair, a smile that made Jack's fists clench. "We need to talk," Tyler said. Jack set down his book and stood up slowly. "You have 5 seconds to get off my property." "Or what? You'll beat me up? Prove that you're exactly the violent thug everyone says you are?" Tyler's smile widened. "I'm not afraid of you, Jack. I know your type. All bark, no bite, not when it matters. You broke my sister's arm. It was an accident. I've already apologized. I'm going to therapy, working on my issues." Tyler stepped closer. "The question is, what are you doing? Living in this dump, playing pretend that you're some kind of hero. You're nothing. You're a criminal who got lucky." Jack's vision went red. Every muscle in his body screamed to attack, to unleash 15 years of violence on this smug, abusive piece of garbage. But then he heard Dr. Phillips's voice in his head. "The beast is a choice, Jack. Every time you feel the rage, you have a choice. You can feed it, or you can let it pass." Jack took a deep breath, then another. "You're right," he said quietly. Tyler blinked. "What?" "You're right. I'm a violent man. I've done terrible things. I've hurt people." Jack met Tyler's eyes. "But I'm trying to change. I'm trying to be better. And you know what the first step is?" "What?" "Not giving you what you want." Jack stepped back. "Get off my property, Tyler. Don't contact my sister again. If you do, I won't be the one who comes after you. It'll be the lawyers, the cops, and the full weight of a justice system that's very interested in men like you." Tyler's smile faltered. He hadn't expected this. He had come here to provoke, to prove that Jack was the monster he needed him to be. But Jack wasn't playing the game. "This isn't over," Tyler said. "Yeah, it is. You just don't know it yet." Tyler stared at him for a long moment. Then he got in his car and drove away. Jack watched until the BMW disappeared. Then he went inside, sat down at his kitchen table, and cried for the first time in 20 years. He had chosen differently. He had let the beast sleep. And somehow, against everything he had ever known about himself, he had won. The legal case against Tyler Reed moved faster than anyone expected. Rebecca Torres was relentless. She gathered evidence, medical records, text messages, witness statements from neighbors who had heard arguments through thin walls. She found 2 other women Tyler had dated, both of whom had similar stories, but had been too afraid to come forward. Until now. With Larissa leading the way, they agreed to testify. 3 women. 3 stories, a pattern of abuse that even Tyler's powerful connections couldn't hide. The councilman father tried to intervene. The judge uncle made phone calls, but Rebecca had anticipated this. She went to the media before they could bury the story. Local councilman's son accused of serial domestic abuse. The headline ran on every local news station. Within days, Tyler Reed went from golden boy to pariah. His father distanced himself publicly. His uncle recused himself from any related cases. Tyler was arrested on a Tuesday morning, charged with assault, causing bodily harm, and witness intimidation. Bail was set at $500,000. Jack watched the news coverage from his living room, Larissa beside him on the couch. "How do you feel?" he asked. "I don't know." Larissa stared at the screen, where Tyler was being led into the courthouse in handcuffs. "I thought I'd feel satisfied, vindicated, but I just feel tired. That's normal. Dr. Phillips says healing isn't linear. Some days you feel strong, some days you feel like you're back at square one." Larissa looked at her brother with something like wonder. "Who are you, and what have you done with Jack Morrison?" He laughed, a real laugh, something that had been rare for most of his life. "I'm still me, just a different version. A better one, I hope." "You are." Larissa took his hand. "I've watched you these past few weeks. The therapy, the reading, the way you handled Tyler when he showed up. I've never been more proud of you." Jack squeezed her hand. "I couldn't have done it without you. Watching you fight, watching you refuse to be a victim, that gave me courage. We saved each other." "Yeah, I guess we did." The doorbell rang. Carter stood on the porch with flowers and takeout. "Heard the news," he said, grinning. "Thought we should celebrate." Larissa's face lit up in a way Jack hadn't seen in months. She practically floated to the door, taking the flowers with a smile that made Carter blush. Jack watched them together. The gentle way Carter touched Larissa's shoulder, the way she leaned into him without fear. Something good was growing there. Something real. For the first time in his life, Jack Morrison wasn't jealous or protective. He was just happy. That night, after Carter left and Larissa went to bed, Jack sat on his porch and looked at the stars. His phone buzzed. A message from the club president. "Heard about the Tyler situation. Brothers are proud of how you handled it. When you're ready, there's always a place for you at the table." Jack stared at the message for a long time. A year ago, he would have jumped at the invitation. The club was his identity, his family, his purpose. Being the Beast was all he knew how to be. But now, he typed his response slowly. "Thanks, brother. Means a lot. But I think I'm done. Time to build something different." The reply came quickly. "Understood. You'll always be family. The door's always open." Jack put down the phone and smiled. He wasn't the Beast anymore. He was just Jack, and that was enough. 6 months later, Larissa stood in front of a mirror practicing. "Tyler, I'm here to tell you directly. You don't have power over me anymore." She took a breath, tried again. "What you did to me was wrong. But I'm not defined by what happened. I'm defined by who I'm becoming." The trial was scheduled for next week. Tyler had rejected a plea deal, convinced he could charm his way out of conviction. Rebecca Torres was prepared to tear him apart on the stand. But before the trial, Larissa had one more thing to do. She had requested a meeting with Tyler, supervised, with lawyers present. Rebecca had been skeptical, but Larissa was insistent. "I need to face him," she explained. "Not for him, for me. I need to look him in the eye and tell him he didn't break me." Jack wanted to go with her. Carter wanted to go, but Larissa said no. "This is something I have to do alone. I've spent my whole life having men protect me. First you, Jack, then Tyler in his twisted way. I need to know I can stand on my own." So she went alone. The meeting room was small and cold. Tyler sat on one side of the table, his lawyer beside him. He looked different, thinner, paler, the arrogance dimmed but not gone. When Larissa walked in, he smiled, that same charming smile that had fooled her for 2 years. "Larissa, you look good. I've missed—" "Stop." Her voice was steady. "I'm not here to reconcile. I'm not here to listen to apologies or promises. I'm here to tell you something." Tyler's smile faded. Larissa sat down across from him, her hands folded on the table. The cast was long gone, but a faint scar remained where the bone had broken through the skin. "You broke my arm," she said quietly. "But that's not what you really broke. You broke my trust, my confidence, my belief that I deserved to be loved without fear." Tyler opened his mouth to speak. His lawyer put a hand on his arm. "I spent months in therapy learning to undo what you did to my mind, learning that the voice telling me I was worthless, that I deserved the abuse, that no one would believe me. That voice was yours. You put it there, and I had to dig it out piece by piece." The tears were forming in her eyes, but her voice stayed strong. "But here's what you need to know, Tyler. You failed. I'm not broken. I'm not afraid. I'm not the girl who flinched when you raised your voice or made excuses for your rage." She leaned forward. "I'm stronger than I've ever been. And nothing you say or do in that courtroom will change that." Tyler's face had gone pale. The charming mask had cracked completely, revealing something ugly underneath. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "When I walk out of that trial a free man, You won't walk free." Larissa stood up. 3 women are going to testify against you. A pattern of abuse going back 10 years. Your father can't save you. Your uncle can't save you. The only thing you can do now is accept responsibility for what you've done." She walked to the door, then turned back one last time. "Goodbye, Tyler. I hope you find help. I really do. But I won't be there to see it. I'll be too busy living my life." She walked out without looking back. In the hallway, her knees nearly gave out. Rebecca Torres was there to catch her. "That was incredible," Rebecca said. "How do you feel?" Larissa thought about the question. She had expected to feel triumphant. Instead, she felt something quieter, calmer, free. "I feel like myself again," she said. Finally, 1 year later, summer had come to Arizona, painting the desert in shades of gold and amber. Jack Morrison stood at a barbecue grill in his Aunt Mary's backyard, flipping burgers and laughing at something Carter said. Larissa sat nearby with Carter's arm around her shoulders. They had been officially together for 8 months now, a slow, careful relationship built on trust and patience. Carter had never pushed, never rushed. He had simply been there, steady and kind, until Larissa was ready. Aunt Mary bustled around the yard, making sure everyone had drinks, fussing over the potato salad, hugging relatives she hadn't seen in years. This was the first family gathering the Morrisons had hosted in over a decade. The first time they had felt like a family in longer than Jack could remember. "More burgers?" Jack called out. "Always!" His cousin Mike shouted back. Jack smiled and added more patties to the grill. So much had changed in a year. Tyler Reed had been convicted on all charges, 5 years in prison, plus mandatory therapy and a restraining order that would last a lifetime. The other women he had abused found closure in the verdict. One of them had even reached out to Larissa, thanking her for having the courage to go first. The Hells Angels had respected Jack's decision to step away. He still saw some of the brothers occasionally, birthday parties, funerals, the occasional ride. But he was no longer the Beast. He was just Jack, a man trying to build a life that didn't revolve around violence. He still saw Dr. Phillips every other week. The anger hadn't disappeared. It probably never would. But Jack had learned to live with it, to recognize the triggers, to breathe through the rage, to choose differently. Larissa had finished her therapy 6 months ago. She still did yoga, still took art classes, still worked on herself every day, but the haunted look was gone from her eyes. She laughed easily now, smiled without fear. "Hey!" Carter appeared at Jack's side, stealing a burger directly off the grill. "Good party. Aunt Mary's doing." "I just showed up with meat. That's your specialty." Carter grinned, then grew serious. "I want to thank you, Jack, for everything." "Thank me for what?" "For trusting me with Larissa, for not killing Tyler when every part of you wanted to, for showing me that it's possible to change." Carter clapped him on the shoulder. "You're a good man, brother. The best I know." Jack didn't know what to say. A year ago, he would have deflected the compliment with sarcasm. Now he just nodded. "Thanks, Carter. That means a lot." Later, as the sun set and the guests began to leave, Jack and Larissa found themselves alone on the back porch. The same porch where, a year ago, Jack had received the phone call that changed everything. "Remember that night?" Larissa asked, as if reading his thoughts. "Every day. I was so scared. Not just of Tyler, but of what you might do. I knew you wanted to hurt him. Part of me wanted you to." "Part of me still does," Jack admitted, "but a smaller part now." Larissa leaned her head on his shoulder. "I'm proud of you, Jack, for choosing differently, for showing me that strength isn't about fists and fury. It's about control, patience, love. You taught me that. Watching you heal, watching you fight your own battles, that's what gave me the courage to fight mine." "Ish, we saved each other," Larissa said again, echoing words from months ago. "Yeah," Jack put his arm around her. "We did." They sat in comfortable silence as the stars came out. A year ago, Jack Morrison had been the Beast, a man defined by violence, driven by rage, convinced that destruction was his only skill. Now he was something different, something better. He was a brother who had learned to protect without hurting, a man who had chosen therapy over revenge, a survivor who had discovered that the greatest strength isn't in your fists, it's in your heart. Larissa had found her voice, her confidence, her independence. She no longer needed a man to save her because she had learned to save herself. And Carter had found a love built on patience and respect, a partner who chose him not out of fear, but out of genuine connection. 3 people bound by trauma, transformed by choice. The beast had been tamed, not destroyed, tamed. Jack knew it would always be there, lurking beneath the surface, but he also knew he had the tools to keep it quiet, the therapy, the breathing, the community of people who loved him. "Hey, Jack," Larissa asked. "Yeah? Do you think Dad would be proud of us if he could see us now?" Jack thought about their father. The man who had started the cycle of violence, the man who had abandoned them and left scars that took decades to heal. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But I don't think it matters. We're not doing this for him. We're doing it for us, for the family we're building." Larissa smiled. "I like that. Me too." The next morning, Jack went for a walk in the desert. He did this every day now, a habit Dr. Phillips had suggested. Time alone with his thoughts, away from distractions. He thought about the journey he had taken, the rage, the therapy, the slow work of becoming someone new. He thought about Larissa, strong and free. He thought about Carter, loyal and kind. He thought about the club he had left behind, the brotherhood he still honored even from a distance. And he thought about the future, unknown, uncertain, but somehow no longer terrifying. The beast had been his armor, his identity, his cage, but Jack Morrison was done with cages. He was ready to live. The end